Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our DDoS Attack Mitigation today. My name is Blerim Rexha. I will be chairing the presentation today and guiding you through Kastriot, maybe the slides. Oh, yes, good. I'll be chairing the presentation today and guiding you through this hands-on experience on attack mitigation with my senior colleagues Vigan, Raca, Kastriot, Fetahaj, and three excellent students, Fetahaj, Rexha, and Malsar Abduli. Our presentation outline is as follows. I'm supposed to stand here, but so we will follow with a small, short introduction about motivation of DOS attacks and anatomy of DOS attacks, why we're using DOS attacks, why the DOS attacks are still among us. We will continue explaining the infrastructure setup, how and what we have prepared for you today and what it needs to run this DOS attacks. We have prepared 5 scenarios starting bottom up from the simplest one, DOS attack from a single IP, then complicating every step. So DDoS attack from single country, multiple IPs, a very interesting one with a command and control attack, and the last one, advanced DDoS attacks. We will conclude our presentation with a few takeaways that I think everybody should take from our presentation. Why we are using denial of service attacks and what is denial of service attacks. There are many definitions of denial of service. I have gathered 3 of them from 3 very most important big players on the market, starting with a Cloudflare. We will be referring Cloudflare later on, as is on our example that we have prepared today. Based on Cloudflare, DDoS attack, denial of service attack, is a malicious attempt to overwhelm a web property. CISA, United States Computer Information Security Agency, defines DOS attacks when legitimate users are not able to access the web services. And the third definition is from ENISA. ENISA is the European Network Information Security Agency. They define DOS attacks as when legitimate users cannot access the web services and where they are totally denied from this service. To 3 these main players we'll referring later on to our presentation. Why we are still dealing with DOS attacks. They are still among us. In fact, the first DOS attack happened in 1996. Yes, 1996 is the first DOS attack incident recorded, but still nowadays we have DOS attacks in many large companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and so on. Even last year, Cloudflare reported the largest HTTP DOS attack with 71 million requests per second. Also in our presentation, we will be referring to HTTP DOS attacks, but in order to understand HTTP DOS attacks, we will go down and layer down our network layer just to show what is the anatomy of the DOS attacks. In fact, DOS attacks are still among many institutions, and they are a constant concern in every institution organization. What we have evidence recently that DOS attacks are becoming easier. As you can see here, we have only 3 laptops here, so it means it's very easy to conduct them. Cheaper. DOS attacks require only internet connection and laptop that you can run your source code. And what is very much concern from everyone, DOS attacks are becoming very aggressive. ENISA just filed a report about DOS attacks from 2022 and 23. And here I just summarized the result of this report. It can be summarized on these statistics. 40% of the DOS attacks were targeting public administration. So if by any chance any public administration officer is among us, they should know that they are the main target. 50% of these attacks were motivated by the war in Ukraine, aggression by Russia. 56 of these attacks have totally caused the disruption of the services. This is very, very important. So if you are under DOS attack, it means by the probability of 56%, you have a totally disruption of your services, and 2/3 of them are politically motivated. So having said this, gives us a motivation still today to have a demo about DOS attacks and mitigation techniques, which are very important to protect our web services, web resources. In order to understand the DOS attacks, we need to boil down to the TCP segment structure. Just to recall you from the computer network courses, when a source and destination trying to communicate with each other, they establish a communication. And here comes the TCP segment structure, and especially this negotiation phase that we call three-way handshake. During this three-way handshake, that is a negotiation between client and server, between two nodes, a very particular bit is very important, so-called SYN bit, which is here marked with red. If a client starts initiation with the server, it sets the SYN bit to 1, telling the server that it's starting negotiation for all the parameters that need to have a reliable TCP connection. Where, for example, the client here set the initial sequence client, and the server allocates server initial number, acknowledgement number, and other resources. What happens here, and exactly this point, is where the malicious user exploits this point, this behavior of a TCP segment structure. The same analogy goes for HTTP, the application layer. So our presentation today goes only the application layer on HTTP requests, which follows the same pattern. What happens in real? The user, the malicious user as presented here, sends many SYN initiation bits and packets we call this SYN flood. So flooding the server with many requests that the server needs to allocate resources, buffers, and so on, and depleting all the server resources. So the SYN flood, the server answer with acknowledgement, but these acknowledgements are never accepted by the client, or in the worst case, they are spoofed IP addresses from the clients that never initiated such a request. So the server is busy with this request, and this time the legitimate client will be denied from its service. Furthermore, we can capture these packets with a Wireshark tool, as it's more familiar to you. And here you can see my packets on my client, on my laptop, from my home address and the server on Cloudflare. And here you can see the SYN bit sent to 1. So these packets are going on the beginning of every negotiation. The same analogy is also in HTTP requests that are sent to the server and remains open till the client responds to them, but the malicious user exploits them. In order to showcase the DDoS attacks, these 5 scenarios, let's give you a small overview of our infrastructure setup. I will call now Vigan to continue.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Rexha. So now we are going to show the infrastructure that we have prepared for all scenarios. So infrastructure is very simple, is nothing complicated, as you see in the slide. So we have used Hasner as cloud provider. So we have set up a server there. The server is set up on Ubuntu. We have installed the WordPress, which has a database. And since the focus is not to protect the WordPress, but to handle the DDoS that maybe come from attackers, we have used the Cloudflare, where we have registered the domain there. So, as you see in the slide, there is another Hasner firewall. We didn't configure this firewall. We left with default parameters because the aim is to handle all the requests from the Cloudflare. Also, it is important to highlight that the access direct from user, that may be attacker, is not possible to the server because all the requests will go through the Cloudflare. Since they will type the DNS, it will go through the Cloudflare. So the only way would be if they will know the IP address of the server, but in the Cloudflare level, we have used the proxy, and the IP address will not be shown.
We can explain how the infrastructure looks, but maybe you're interested in how the product looks. We have just published a simple free template WordPress site that is besideDDoS.com that everyone can access, and just to show a real example of how a specific website hosted in this kind of environment work and looks like. So, coming to the Cloudflare configuration and Cloudflare overall, most of the people think that, there is a myth that most of the people think that if you want to protect your infrastructure, your web application, you just need to have a Cloudflare. But it's not true. because even though when you configure the Cloudflare, you might make some mistakes. Cloudflare is a platform that has many features. One of them, it can be used only as a DNS service provider, just to link the DNS records. And if you do that, like we are showing here in this presentation, if you do that, like a record that we are pointing this domain to this IP that actually we have masked, and you leave this proxy trigger without enable it, you will have only a DNS record. And this way you can expose your IP, and all the rules that you apply in Cloudflare firewall will not be applied. So everything gonna go through that with, like you haven't implement any firewall between the end users and your servers. So it's very important when we do configuration in Cloudflare, if you want to have the full protection to enable this proxy. The other thing that you might see here, a lot of companies have the same domain that serve different applications. They might serve in a different servers or in the same server. And if you see here in the slides, like this domain, the subdomain from the University of Pristina is going to the Cloudflare. The second one is going to Cloudflare too. But this one, that is web data, University of Pristina data education, is not going through the Cloudflare. We don't know if the proposal of this should be like this or the administrator forgot it, but in this case, the administrator actually have exposed the IP. And a lot of small to medium companies use the same server to serve multiple applications. And if this is the case for the University of Pristina, what we can do as an attacker is just attack IP directly, and this way we're going to bypass the Cloudflare configuration and Cloudflare protection, because the traffic will not go through the Cloudflare firewall, but will go directly to the IP, and in this case probably we can make more damage of attacking the IP directly than going through the domain. And the third scenario is something that is called DNS history. A lot of companies used to have for many years the default configuration of simple DNS records, and after that they have attacks and decide to go through the Cloudflare. But what they happen is that a lot of organizations and a lot of service providers used to cache the DNS record how they used to be like 2 or 3 years ago. If we have analyzed the Besides Pristina website, and we have seen that at 2022, they have switched from the DNS from Amazon to the Cloudflare. But actually, we can see here that IP address from Amazon is still showing in DNS history. If the Besides Pristina haven't changed the IP of the server, it means we can directly attack the IP without going through the Cloudflare protection. So these three examples are very common mistake that a lot of people who just want to protect the application just buy the Cloudflare, and they say they might think they are safe, but they make mistake configuration on it. So it's always better if you have a legacy application that was running without of your server, and first to implement the Cloudflare, after that change the IP to point in non-IP, and not to use the liquid IP that you have used before.
Let's now dive to our 5 scenarios, and we have prepared the very simple scenario. Let me show you here. Kastriot and Vigan will be on the server side. They will explain what happens in Cloudflare, what kind of configuration they are undergoing in order to protect this massive attack. And here my 3 young colleagues, starting from Alsar, Dea, and Alba, will play in attackers. Once per time individually, sometimes in together. So the first scenario will be an attack, DDoS attack from a single IP. I will ask Alba to continue and showing us how simple it is to write a code and to execute a DDoS attack. Alba?
Thank you, Professor. So let's start with the first live demonstration. So in this case, we are going to do this attack from a single IP. So sometimes some things are really easy to do. So we know that everyone here is familiar with ChatGPT. So you don't have to have a ChatGPT premium account, but right now I'm using ChatGPT 3.1. It's not the latest version of ChatGPT. So this attack will be really easy if I ask ChatGPT in this way. So my question for ChatGPT will be like, write a Python script that connects to a destination. Sorry. To a destination server given.
Types the request for the ChatGPT. This is just to showcase that how easy it is to write the Python code that will run. The Python code that will run in parallel and will bring down a server. If this is exposed with IP address or is put on Cloudflare without proper configuration. In the meantime, I think Alba is trying to put a proper question to ChatGPT. Take your time, Alba. We have tested this many times. The code runs perfectly. So even you have not to be a computer scientist in order to ask a ChatGPT and to run the Python code. So just we give her some time without any stress. Okay, and generate properly given. Okay.
So my question for ChatGPT will be in this way. So if I put enter, ChatGPT is going to generate me a code. Not every time ChatGPT generates the same code. So to be transparent, I will copy this code and will paste in Visual Studio. So after I paste this code, I create it before this file, like test file, and I will save this file. After I save the file, we are going to terminal, and we will execute. So for CD desktop, this is where my Python file is saved, and I'm going to run this code in this way: Python test.
Test.py.
So our code runs successfully. So I have to go at the besides website, and I will copy the URL. After I copy the URL, we will put in our terminal, and we have to put the number of parallel connections to generate that we have 500. And the rate of connections that are the requests for seconds that we have also 500. So we should wait.
And now if we switch from the administrators or how this kind of DDoS attacks looks like, when it kick in from the Alba, probably we can see here we have like the CPU of the server is like pretty low right now. But when the attack gonna kick off, what we're gonna notice, that the resource is gonna go pretty high. And depends on the internet connection and the attack power that Alba is able to generate, but it might go up to 100% of the CPU and RAM uses. Are you running the script?
Yes.
Are you sure the domain is right? Because I'm not receiving the...
I will try again.
Save the file here. Okay.
Let's wait a bit until the Alba store the script and attack to our server. And meanwhile, we're going to demonstrate that we have no security rules applied in the Cloudflare. This is like a default configuration. No security rules, no rate limit, and no nothing. And if we go and analyze the traffic in the last 30 minutes, when the traffic gonna come, we're gonna see a spike on this graph, but the traffic is pretty low. It might be because of the internet speed of the environment that we are using it, but it's pretty low. Just to see this example, now we can see now it's coming to 30%, 57, and it depends on the power of the user, but this is how it comes. And if the power of the user who is attacking is pretty high, it might go up to 100% of that. And maybe to most of you, this kind of attacks might look like a primitive attack that one user with just a simple computer is attacking one server. But most of the small to medium applications who have no protection or have default configurations, they fail down, they go down from this type of attacks. And this kind of attacks are pretty easy to block, because since the source of the attack is coming from a single IP, it's very easy to block it. And in Cloudflare, you have many ways of analyzing it, but one of the ways to analyze it is going through the analytics of logs traffic here, and focus on the range when you are receiving attack. Actually, we are receiving in this 5 minutes, and here you can go and see the source IPs. What Cloudflare provide here, they provide you what are the topmost IPs that are attacking. And here you can see that this is coming to the first place, and this other IPs just kicked in recently. So it's very easy to block it, and how we can block this kind of IP from this kind of sources. Our colleague Vigan gonna explain how you can apply a rule to block this.
Yeah. So since we have logs and we see clearly in the log that this is the IP which caused many of the requests, so we are just going to copy this IP address, and we'll go here at security, and we'll use the WAF, which is the web application firewall of the Cloudflare. So just I'm going back again to see if that is the IP address that caused the source IP addresses. So I'm going to block this one. Security, web application firewall. So here we will need to create one rule, and based on this rule, we'll block the request that will come from this IP. So I'm going to create one rule. I'll name it, let's say, single IP block. Since we know the source IP address from the logs, so I will post it here. And now we need to take an action. So the action will be to block it. So what we will do now, because we want to show that this is blocked, and we will call it the first scenario, since we are doing the first scenario. So I'm going to use the HTML. And I will name a response code. I will name like that, 410. So I'm going to deploy it. So it shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to be applied, and then it should have effect.
Since this is like very easy technique to block, and it's just by blocking the IPs. And this kind of rules most of the time take 2 to 3 minutes to apply. We're gonna move to the second demo when we're gonna show.
To interrupt you, maybe we can just switch to the Alba screen and show in the response now of the attacker client. So this is now the screen from Alba. She's trying to access the page. DDoS, besides ddos.com, and she receives now the message that the Vigan previously configured that this is blocked by the server. So this is the custom message now that the attacker receives. Having said this, we have finished with the first scenario. So the attacker is very simple to write. Even ChatGPT can do for us, can run, and very simple rule that the Vigan created. Let's move now to the second scenario.
The second scenario is similar to a first scenario, but now we're gonna simulate that multiple attackers from a same country with different tools gonna apply the attack. But before doing this, just to show that all the rules that we are applying here are kicking with the different scenarios, what we are going to do now, we are just going to delete the first blocking rule that actually blocked Alba's attacks, and now you can see this kind of rule have blocked till now have blocked 272 requests, all the requests that Alba was doing with her Python script. Now I'm deleting this just to show that we're gonna block the upcoming attack from multiple devices, from multiple IPs. With another rule.
The slides with us. Das genau die These.
Okay. The scenario looks similar to the first one. Now we have just many attackers. We have here 3 attackers in front of us. They are trying to connect with different internet service providers like Volia, IPCO, ArtMotion, and what are possible here. So I'm giving now the floor to Dia.
Thank you, Professor Rexha. So what you saw from the previous demonstration from Alba, that was a denial of service. When she attacked and then later on tried to access the web page, it said that it has been blocked. So that was done from a single IP, from Alba's IP. And what we're here for today is to mitigate the DDoS attacks. So what will make a DOS to a DDoS is the distributed responsibility of attacking the website. So Alba, Malsor, and I all will be attacking the website at the same time and see how this will affect the Cloudflare and how this will affect the responsivity of our website. We will be running similar Python scripts, and I'm here today to describe the Python script that I will use to attack the targeted website. So I will just be showing how easy it is, and most of this could also be generated with ChatGPT, and we would just need to accommodate whatever it is that we need, for example, the URL, the target of the website that we want to attack. So I will be describing shortly what this code does. So I will be running this code from the terminal, and it's important for me to visually see how the response status code of the website will be, so I can color code it into green and red respectively. So I have used the Colorama library and imported some of its specifics, as well as since we're going to be making GET requests to our designated website, I have imported the request library. And it's also important that since we want to demonstrate that we want to have as many requests as possible, we want to do this through a multi-processing approach. So we want to import pools so that different processes can run our main function simultaneously. And what this will do in our hopes is that block the website, and then we will go on to show how we can best mitigate this. So what I've done is, firstly, you can have a global variable that defines the number of attacks that you want to launch, and the target URL, which was the website that we have created for demonstration purposes. So the main part of this code is the attack function, where we have given the parameters, the X parameters. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do this with processes, and it's important that we can track what process is sending what request, so that we can have this in order for us to debug or things of the sort. So what I've done is that we're going to be sending a GET request. We will give the parameters of the URL. We have constructed some headers, which are just some sample headers used via a Python dictionary. And I've also set the timeout of this request to 3, meaning that if the server does not respond within 3 seconds, then the server will abort this request. And then, as I mentioned earlier, in our terminal, we can see the pool of in which the process launching the attack belongs to, the request that is being made, as well as the status code of this request. If this is successful, the code within the try block will be executed. Otherwise, we'll have the site is down printed in our terminal, indicating that the site indeed is down. This will be the attack from my side, and I will pass it on to Malsor to tell us about the attack that he will be launching to our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Dea. We just have to switch the HDMI port. Okay. Just wait a few seconds to show it up in the screen. So we are using an open source tool which is used for educational purposes as usual, but we now are demonstrating how this tool named gmatter can be used also for denial of services attacks. So first step that we're gonna do is we're gonna run the gmatter batch file, and it opens interface of Apache gmatter. Now we're gonna create there at the test plan and thread graph, and on it we're gonna create an HTTP request. We go back to thread groups, and we have to talk a little about thread properties. So we see there the number of threads that in our case is gonna be 500, and this determines the total number of virtual users that concurrently execute the test plan and represents the simulated load on the server. And we have here there the ramp up period in seconds, which specifies the time duration which the defined number of threads will be started. And also we have the loop count that we're gonna do it in infinite, which defines the number of times each virtual user will execute the test plan. So we are gonna go to HTTP request, and we're gonna write the protocol there, which is HTTPS, and the server name or IP is besides-dedos.com. And we're gonna do there the get method, because it's typically used for retrieving data from the server, and is suitable for requests that do not modify server-side data. Now we're gonna run that. Also, the squad gonna run their scripts. After saying that,
So now we have 3 concurrent attacks going on from 3 laptops here from different ISPs. Let's check now. We see the 100%. So Kastriot, maybe you take from here, or Vigan?
Yes, actually, now you can see that the attack is coming from multi sources, and now the power is pretty high. And what is happening with our small server is the CPU is going up to 100%, as you can see in the slide, and the RAM is pretty high too. It's around 80 to 90%, because it's not showing as a percentage. The same thing what we can do is, since this kind of graphs in a Cloudflare are not real time, and they might take some time, but you can see it just started to have a spike. But this kind of attack is again pretty easy to block, because what our attacker has in common, they are using the same same country, and probably the same service provider in this case. How we can see how the traffic from which source is coming, if you want to see from a country, we just need to go here, and we will see, and it will list that the traffic based on the country. And now you can see here that the spike is coming up. We are not waiting until the request is going to go too high, because this is already throttling our application and our server. But what we can see here, we can see that a major of our traffic is coming from Kosovo. And now Vigan gonna tell how you can block a specific region or country on a Cloudflare. But this kind of rules are applied only when attacker is gonna come from a country when you are not giving services. So for example, if the attack is coming from our country and we are serving the services to our country, we cannot block Kosovo, because in this case we gonna block a legitimate traffic, legitimate users to access our website. But if this scenario is very suitable in a case, for example, like a foreign country that you don't have any relation with them. For example, if the attack is coming from Russia, or China, and we don't serve any of our services to them, probably we just go and block the service to them. We're gonna be safe and secure. Vigan?
Yes. So, based on logs, we see that the country is our country, Kosovo, since most of the requests are coming from this country. And we have some others, 51 from Albania, Serbia, but we are going to block this one. So same again, so we are going to security, and under the WAF, we will need to create one rule, similar like previous rule that we did. I'll type a name of rule.
Block.
Country block. Now this time, we will not select the IP source address, but we are going to select the country. There is a continent. So since we know the country, we'll find the Kosovo. Also, it's very easy because Cloudflare lists the list of countries, so it will avoid for any mistake that can be caused. Now we'll need to choose the action. Same again, we are going to block it, and we will provide response type, because we need to show that when you try to open the website, it will show the block from scenario 2. I'll also name the response code 420, and I'm going to deploy now. So we'll wait a bit, and we'll check if the site is really blocked and if it shows the blocked by scenario 2.
Again, a rule might take some time to kick in, and how we can see if the rule have kicked in is here Vigan have set specific response code for block from our country is 4220, and in analytics here we can see that if we filter with the S code, that is the code that we respond to the users that we have blocked, and if we put here 420 and apply this filter, I did a mistake on applying the filter. Apply. Now you can see that it's just started to block, and here you can see that still the traffic is 100% because a lot of requests are in queue. But if you wait like 1 minute, we're gonna see the traffic gonna go down, and our service gonna be again up, but only for the user that are not in Kosovo, because we have blocked as a country. And even though if you switch to the attacker's screen, you can see that all the requests for them now are getting, if the site is responding, they are getting 420, the status code that is used to block. And even though if one of the users that is showing the screen can see in the browser is saying block by scenario 2. So or applied rule by blocking by country has actually worked. And same, you can see here, now it's 1,000 request blocked. So and even now it's 4,000 request blocked. So it's blocking, but the graphs and analytics in the Cloudflare.com immediately. They need some time to process, but we have now you can see it's going down, but always when you apply some rules, the web server that we are using here is Apache, and it needs some time to process all all the traffic that actually have come from but yeah, now it's going down. Now it's going down because I've processed all the queue requests and the rule is applied. Now I will ask attackers to stop attacking because we don't want to choke our server when we delete the rule in Cloudflare, and we're gonna move with scenario number 3. Meanwhile, I'm deleting
Show
this. Yeah.
And meantime, so we have shown the attackers coming from the same country with different IPs, and in meantime, Kastriot will delete all the rules applied to the server. Attackers will stop the attacking, and now we are moving to our third scenario, attacking from multiple IPs and multiple countries. Of course, for this, we will need some collaboration from outside, so we're using another tool, and we go back now to Alba again. She will now try to simulate the multiple user from multiple countries. Therefore, she's using a loader .io, a tool, a software tool that simulates different countries with specific load. So, Alba, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. So the third scenario will be attacked from multiple IPs. So I will use Loader.io. Loader.io is a cloud-based service that helps to test performance and scalability for web application. So for not taking time, I create some drafts. So I'm using this draft. And I will say things that I edit in this file. So every test should need a name. That right now I use the high traffic test. And of course, the test type, we have different test types, but we use clients for seconds. And then the number of clients that we want to use, there are 10,000. And the duration is the time that we want to do this attack, that is 5 minutes. After we put this numbers, we have advanced settings that in a regular file is 50%, but we use 0% for errors. And after doing this, we have to change the protocol because it was HTTP, and we have to use HTTPS and the host that is our website. So after we put this, we have to run the test. So I'm going to run the test. We should wait some seconds.
We will switch to our screen, and since the Loader.io is a tool, cloud tool that is actually able to make a lot of requests a second, you saw the configuration that Alba did is it can go up to 10,000 requests per second. What we will see that our CPU is again 100%, and even though if you try to access now the site, probably is going to take a lot of time or not going to be loading. The reason why I'm doing this, because now we are not blocking our IPs, we're not blocking our country, Kosovo. So in this case, if we have some rules applied, in this case we should be able to access the site. But what we are seeing here is just loading. And now if you go to the traffic, as I said before, this kind of traffic don't come immediately. But if you wait like a couple of more seconds, you can see is going the spike. Now we have a scenario that we cannot apply the rules that we used to apply before. We cannot block the IPs because they're coming from different IPs with different load. We cannot block the country because they are coming from different countries. In this case, mostly from US, but in other scenario, they will come from multiple countries, multiple IPs, and we cannot block because there is something in the internet called NAT, and a lot of users might use the same IP from the same country, and we don't want the user that want to access our site, they are legitimate user, we don't want to block that. And this scenario, we cannot apply blocking IPs, we cannot apply blocking countries. But we need to know our application to apply different rules. For example, we know that our application is a WordPress site that actually serves news. And we know that every user will not look more than 5 to 10 news at most for a minute. So what we can do, we can apply a rate limit. What we can do, we can limit the IP or how many requests can make for a specific minute. And what we will do right now, Professor Vigan gonna explain how you can implement rate limit rules in a Cloudflare that gonna limit IPs to 100 requests per minute. And if they extend this kind of rate limit, we're gonna block only the IPs who extend this kind of limit.
So, since Kastriot explained that this kind of attack is different and it's a bit tricky also to prevent it, so we are going to add another rule, but this time the rule is different. So we'll need to create a rule under the rate limit rules. So here, I'm going to create a rule. I'm naming it rate limit. In the field now, we need to select the host name. The host name is the domain of our server. So yes, this one, bsides-ddos.com. And now we will select when the rate exceeds, we will provide the request 100, and the period required will be for 1 minute. So, of course, we'll need to take an action for this, and we are going to block. Same again, I'm using HTML to show the message. And for duration, I will leave for 1 hour. We will deploy it, wait a bit, and we'll see the result.
So this kind of attack that Alba is doing, please Alba run an attack again if it's not running. This kind of attack that Alba is doing from a cloud services and it is not going from our IP. So if we try to access our site after the rule kick in, we cannot see the message that is blocked by scenario 2 or scenario 3, but the attacker is gonna see that message. And how we can see that our rule is applied successfully, again, we can go to the analytics. We can serve with the rate limit, and the rate limit that is applied for the static code that we are responding for the rate limit is 430. What we can do here, we can add a filter. We can select the edge code 430, and we're gonna need to apply. Again, I make a mistake. It's not happy. Yeah. The problem is that Cloudflare is not allowing me to select the codes that is not like known as a code, but here we can see in the edge that status 431 has kicked in, and how we can do, we can just see the filter like this, and we can see that a lot of traffic is going on from is blocking with this kind of rules, but still we have 100% like in the previous scenario, and we need some time to wait until this rule have blocked all IPs, and after that we're gonna be able to open the site. So it's blocked by IP2 probably because we have the same rate limit, because probably the users have tried many requests for the same time. So if Alba is attacking from a cloud, but a lot of you users are extending that 100 requests from this IP that we are using in this network, it's gonna block us too. But yeah, it's blocked, and probably after some time you can see the CPU for our server is down, and we can say in this way that attack is mitigated successfully.
Kastriot, thank you very much. So with this, we are wrapping the scenario 3, having for multiple IP addresses, as we showed by the loader.io. Just to remind you, loader.io is meant for good positive testing, but malicious user can use them also for such case. Let's move to very more attractive attack scenario when we use a botnet, our so-called command and control. For this, we're using our special hardware at the Faculty of Electrical and Computer Engineering. We call a special server called Hunesha, and Dia now is going to showcase how we can exploit this. Dia?
Thank you. So as you were here and were able to firsthand see how we are employing different attacking strategies to best try to unblock this website, so far we did try to do attacks from the same country, from different IP addresses and high requests. So a high rate limit rule was able to block our attacks. So I'm going to try and make this situation more complicated. So I will be distributing the attack across multiple regions, so multiple geographic regions, in a low rate limit, in a low number of requests per second, so that this will not go as a suspicious activity. At least that's what we hope. And this will make the attack a little bit more complicated, since the rate limit rule will not be applying. What I will be using to demonstrate this attack is our high performance computing cluster of the Faculty of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Pristina, which is used to facilitate research, and we're going to use its computing power to run a Python script to use a proxy. So the proxy will be able to geographically distribute the attacks that we will be launching into our target website. Before we jump into the attack phase, I would like to introduce you to the Hunesha website a little bit more, so that you can see what it actually is. You can recognize the names from Illyrian female names holding historical significance for our culture, and you can see there are 9 computing nodes named as follows. What I would like to show you is the technical details of this high performance computing node. It has, for example, 2 times 16 physical cores and 64 logical cores, as well as 128 gigabytes of RAM. So you can see that it's a quite high performance computing node. So what I will be doing is I will be connecting to this server via remote desktop connection, where I have been granted credentials, and will try to make the connection and access it remotely. So for demonstration purposes, we have created a special website called Besides Pristina, and I will be entering the credentials to access it and hopefully present to you what it looks like and how we can initiate an attack from that. So in just a couple of seconds, I will be going into the terminal where the Python script is saved. So we can just see that it's a Python script as mentioned, and we can just run it using the Python 3 command and proxy.py. So this is the command used to run this Python script, which will initiate the attack. And right now we're going to be able to see that the request was successful. And after some time, we're going to see what will happen in the back end of this, with the Kastriot showing the Cloudflare aspect.
The scenario that actually they are showing is like a scenario that is very likely to happen when a specific group or a hacker have in fact a lot of PCs, and have a command and control that manage a lot of them and address all of them to attack against one target. The problem with this kind of attack is because it comes from many sources, many IPs, many countries, and even though what is making more difficult to block is they go with a low request per second. So instead of having 10 IPs that go with a 100 requests per second, now they use 1,000 IPs that go with a 10 requests per second. So they kind of spread horizontally. And what did happen in our case, you can see in our CPU is again 100%. The reason why, even though if you have a rate limit rule applied, they're gonna go under our rate limit. In this case, blocking IPs don't work because there are many IPs. You cannot block 1,000 IPs one by one. Blocking countries, not going to work because they are coming from countries that we serve the service. And rate limit, not going to work because they are going under our rate limit. We cannot set a rate limit 1 request per second because no one's going to be able to access our service anymore. Now, what we need to do, we need to find what the attacker have common. And most of the time when the attackers come from a botnet, they have the same malware infected, and they're going to have the same pattern of the attack. How we can analyze how that attack is coming from and how it looks like. You can analyze this in the events under the security. And if you go in the last 30 minutes, there are many scenarios, many types of attacks. You might have experience to analyze them, but what our scenarios have in common, if we go to the items, you can see this kind of a top IPs are coming, a lot of requests, but a lot of IPs that we cannot show for now are going with a low request. But what we can see is this. We can see that most of the headers are legitimate headers for the legitimate users, but some of them are from Python requests. And we know that no one from a Python should be access our service, because we are serving web server and they might access it from a browser. So what we can do, we can list this kind of headers right here. For example, this is not expected to come in our website. This is not expected to come in a website. And probably this is from JMeter, because JMeter is developed by Apache and they do HTTP requests. Probably this is not a legit header, is not a user agent that we want. And the loader IO is not the user agent that we want too. But we are leaving out because we know right now in this demonstration we are not attacking from the loader IO. What we can do here, we can apply filters. And we can go here and say, give me all the requests that are from this kind of user agent that actually we detected as not a normal traffic from our site. This is the first one. This is the second one. And this is the third one. And if we apply this filter, what you can see here, we can see that all the traffic coming from this kind of simulated botnet with a lot of IPs, as you can see, but very low requests per seconds, are coming from this kind of a user agent. And what we can do now, we're going to explain how we apply a rule to block users that are coming from a specific user agent.
Yes, since we use the filters now, so it's very easy to create the rule. So now the rule will be created here. So I'll put a rule. Take an action, so I'm going to block it. I will use the same customization block by 4. So in this case, the response code will be 440. And now we don't need to change anything, so it seems to be okay. And just we are going to deploy it, and we'll wait for results.
When the rule can apply, if you switch back to the DEA's computer, you will see that now DEA, instead of having 200 response code that is kind of replying to that, she is receiving 404. But the rule that we have applied to block the botnet. Similar, if you switch to our scenario, is the load is coming down. So we can see that the rule have actually applied. In this case, we mitigate a kind of scenarios when we have a huge amount of IPs attacking from different countries, but in a very low attack. This is the scenario 4. Vigan, please delete the rule, and you please stop the attacking.
First, you need to block the attacking.
Let's move, since we are a little bit behind of time, and I think the next presenter is waiting eagerly to come on the floor. Let's move to the last scenario, the 5th scenario. We are concluding the 4th scenario with very complicating rules to attack from multiple IPs, low level limit, and also some browsers that utilize our website. We're moving to the last one, to advanced DDoS attacks, something that you might happen to take out to work on it. So the last scenario, the advanced scenario, is we're using now Malsor to simulate the attacks through the JMeter, and Kastriot and Vigan will show what happened on the server side. Malsor, the floor is yours. Just show us what are you doing, and on meantime, maybe we can speed up a little bit the last presentation, what happens on the server side. Malsor?
Let me allow before the Malsor attack on this, we need to make some clarification when this kind of rules can be applied. It's very important to know our application. If you don't know our application, probably we're going to have a problem by applying this, because now what we're going to do as a protecting rule, we're going to apply caching. And if our application have a dynamic content, we cannot do that. We can do this only in a static pages that don't change often. And here we have this page that is just is showing only the is just showing the simple page that is or abstract or presentation. And we know that this page is not going to change or going to change very, very rarely. What we can do, we can grab this link and we can go in Cloudflare, just to refresh here to see that this mitigator rule has been deleted. We can go under the rules and we're going to go page rule, and we're going to delete this because it's already applied. We're going to create a rule. What is the rule is we are doing for this URL, we are applying cache rules. So what we are doing, we are applying cache level everything. We want to cache post, get, and headers, parameters, or everything that is relating to the HTTP request. We are applying browser cache TLL. That is the time when the browser gonna clear the cache. We are doing this case only 5 minutes, and we are applying edge cache TLL that we are putting 1 hour, and we are deploying it. So in this scenario, we have deployed, and if we run this, we're going to see the delay because it's going to our server. But if you're running this, you're going to see that it's blinking very fast because all the content is serving directly from a Cloudflare and not going to our server. Now I'm asking all the attackers to attack our site and to see if they can bring down. Everyone with any tool you have, you can apply, but it's very important to attack in this link because we have implemented in this case, in this scenario, only the cache for this link, not for the whole site. So please adjust your codes and attack on it.
So we go back again to the JMeter tool. We're gonna do the same configurations as we did before. So we're just gonna hurry up because we don't have so much time. We're gonna write there HTTPS besides dash DDoS.com, get method and the path DDoS dash attack dash mitigation. So we're gonna attack the static page that they have there. So we're gonna start the attack. Also, I'm trying to get the help from the team. So we're gonna save it and we're gonna start it. Okay.
Others, please start attack in this link too. And are you sure that we have put the right link? All of you, or all of you attacking in that cache rule? Because I'm having a lot of traffic. But same thing, we can add another cache rule. Then we can put, for example, whole site. So if you want to cache everything, 1 hour. And I'm adding another rule with a prefix, because some user might use a www, some user might not. And I'm applying again. I'm deploying. And now if we go to the caching under the rules, you can see in the last 30 minutes when we are applying that, like most of the APIs, even though in this time most of the requests are coming from a cache, and only few of them are coming from our server. And now if you go to our server, even though they are still attacking, our resources are going very, very low. So this is the last demo for this presentation, and now Professor Blerim gonna tell us some takeaways from this.
Okay, for takeaway and wrapping all 5 scenarios, I'm very happy for the 4th and the 5th one, which are real scenarios that you might experience during your company, your work, etc. So let me wrap up the takeaways from our presentation. DOS attacks are very simple. We have showcased that for this, you don't need an engineering background. Even ChatGPT can help you, and you can run the scripts. So it's very simple, very cheap to develop and execute a DOS attack. Cloud is not a magic word. Just having a cloud with a proper configuration won't help you. Third, it needs to understand your application and infrastructure. If you have clients just in Kosovo, you can block other countries. But if your target is different countries, then you cannot block just a specific country because you're blocking legitimate users. And last but least, you need to analyze your attack and to apply the smart mitigation technique as we showcased by rate limit, by spreading, by browser, etc. Having said this, we are coming to the QA session. And please, if you have any question, we are here to answer immediately. And also we are here after the presentation during the coffee period.
Given that we are a little bit behind schedule, I would ask you to keep questions at, like not so many questions, so we don't run a little bit behind with the schedule. Kastriot, Professor Rexha, and the others are going to be around, and then maybe you can catch up with them on the hallway.
Maybe for 1 and 2 questions, I will give an extra point.
Okay, any question? Let me just pass the mic then.
Thank you for the demonstration. Say if someone or a group of people were to deliberately target the University of Pristina during exam period, say to attack their servers so that the students are not able to register to take their exams, what's stopping them? How well prepared is the university to defend against this type of attack?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, that's very legit scenario when it can happen. There is no magic way of blocking the attacks. You need to analyze that. So if it's someone from the scenario that we show, for the first or second scenario that we show, that they might use a simple script or pre-built tool to attack the server, we might block the specific IP on it, or applying rate limit to that register page. And even though applying rate limit sometimes can work, sometimes if all the users from the university want to register the semester or exams, and we apply the very aggressive rate limit, they might block them too. But this depends very much in the attack. Based on my experience, like a lot of people who do this kind of attacks for malicious purposes, they use pre-built tools like Lowerbit is one of the most famous for doing denial of service attacks, and they have like specific patterns how they do the attacks. So the idea is to analyze and to filter the traffic that comes from that tool and block only the traffic that comes from that tool.
Okay, one more question, last question. Don't be afraid. Going once.
And
Yep.
last one here, and we will be here around for taking another question or another comment, suggestion as well.
Thank you. It was very clear demonstration. Thanks. If you do not want to use Cloudflare, do you have any alternatives? Thanks.
Professor Blerim, do you want? Okay, so that's a great question for sure, because not all the users want to use the Cloudflare. Most of the rules applied in this presentation don't have to be specific for Cloudflare. Most of the application firewalls provide a similar filtering and blocking mechanism. The reason why we explain the Cloudflare, because Cloudflare is just to give you an example, the plan that we're using to block this kind of attack in this is a pro plan that costs $20 for monthly. And Cloudflare, since it's a cloud service provider that provide firewall, is the cheapest and the easiest solution to apply. But if you have like a specific firewall implemented in your network, same rules can be applied, but you have some takeaways from that too. You need to have strong network, because if the attacker is going to apply more attack that your network can handle, they're going to block your switch before they come to your firewall. And even though we have some scenarios in government of Kosovo, they apply blocking rules in the Cloudflares, but not the Cloudflare, but in their own firewalls. But what they have in firewalls, they can address not more than 17,000 requests per second. And if the traffic is more than 70,000 requests per second, they're going to show the firewall too. So it's very important, and it's highly recommend not, you can use for internal uses to like internal firewall, but for external, for edge services, it's highly recommended to use cloud services that might be able to address more traffic and handle more attacks.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. If the attackers can bypass the Cloudflare and they attack the IP of the server, if they found it through the DNS history or whatever, how could you protect against that?
There are some cases when there are some vulnerabilities in Cloudflare, and the user can block, can bypass the rules that apply from Cloudflare. But actually, in this case, you need to trust someone. If you want to use Cloudflare, you have the attack away that you need to take as a risk. If you don't, you might address your attacks manually by yourself, but probably you're going to have more problem that bypassing the Cloudflare rules so someone can do it.
So that is, can I continue? So also in the when we presented the infrastructure, so we have shown that there is another firewall of Hasner. So in this case, so we will need just to configure Hasner, some parameters, and then we'll block this kind of attacks from the Hasner level, not from Cloudflare.
Great. With that being said, we're going to wrap it up. Professor Rexha, Kastriot, Vigan, and the rest, thanks so much for this great demonstration. We really appreciate it.